Trust Notes, October 5th, 2025. The Reconstruction era rears its head. What's the lesson? Functioning democracy requires collective trust in the system. Participants must share a vision of reality. The American consensus reality around democracy has crumbled. While trust in the system has evaporated in the American mainstream, it never actually existed in the Black community. As we witness the methodical shredding of what had been a movement toward a shared vision of pluralistic, multiracial democracy in the United States, a quote comes to mind. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Consider the loud echo of the following historical rhyme from the Reconstruction era that's reverberating throughout society today. The Reconstruction era, from 1865 to 1877, was the period immediately after the American Civil War, when the United States worked to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved Blacks into society as citizens. Blacks individually and as communities made significant political gains at this time. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which abolished slavery, granted citizenship and equal rights, and secured voting rights for Black men, were ratified during this period. African Americans were elected to public office and gained a measure of economic self-sufficiency. These advances were absolutely intolerable to the oligarchic Southern planter elites. Like the nation's founders, the generations of planters who followed them assumed that poor people who didn't own property, especially destitute Blacks, were locked into their condition for perpetuity. Social status was a lifetime condition from which there was no redemption. It was their lot. It was their place. Freed Blacks were viewed as the existentially threatening other and were best isolated, made invisible, and left to their own devices to take care of themselves. If they could be purged from the body politic, white men could consolidate power. White domination was, after all, the natural hierarchical order of things. The planter oligarchs had fully internalized and embodied the belief that it was their birthright to dominate people of color lest their way of life be destroyed. They viewed Reconstruction as an illegitimate and harmful redistribution of wealth from those who righteously deserved it to the formerly enslaved people who did not. Every fiber of wealthy whites' beings revolted at the very thought of non-property holders having any say in government over their tax dollars, or the prospect of being required to contribute to the well-being of the poor. Reconstruction ended in 1877 with the withdrawal from the American South of federal troops which had been sent to protect Blacks' civil rights. This led to the Jim Crow segregation laws, which suppressed African American rights, enforced and sealed Black political disenfranchisement. Confederacy-related white supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan, the White League, and the Democratic Redeemers used violence and legislative tactics to reverse progress and brutally ensure that Reconstruction-era constitutional advancements were overturned. Prominent Blacks were removed and barred from office, and a rapid succession of massacres destroyed Black businesses and communities that threatened the old status quo. An 80-year reign of terror ensued. Fast forward to October 2025. Interestingly, the cycle seems to have come back around, and all of this sounds familiar. American society's current response to the movement toward multiracial democracy, which culminated in the election of a Black president, has been to meticulously plan and now implement the destruction of that system. As if on cue, plans are currently underway to reinstall prominent Confederate monuments that were taken down in the wake of the 2020 George Floyd protests. Many renamed American military bases are reverting to their Confederate-related name. Today's American oligarchic elites daily demonstrate their belief that the government exists primarily to protect the rights and do the bidding of a specific small group of wealthy individuals. Legislation passed 3 months ago calls for cuts in food stamp funding, SNAP, for the most economically disadvantaged by about 20%, or $186 billion through 2034. Cuts in Medicaid for that same under-resourced population will cost 4.2 million Americans to lose their health insurance and access to needed, often life-saving health care. Already struggling Black and rural communities will be hit hardest. The same piece of legislation reversed the previous administration's student loan forgiveness programs, among other tax-supported social safety net programs. Masked ICE, immigration, and customs enforcement agencies are indiscriminately smashing car windows in order to pull people out of their vehicles based solely on racial profiling. Going door to door on Tuesday, September 30th, in an apartment building on Chicago's South Side, ICE agents dragged people out of their apartments in zip ties, detaining 37 and traumatizing all of the residents, including immigrants who are lawfully in this country and American citizens. People fear going to work or taking their children to school, lest ICE agents stop, harass, or detain them based solely on the way they look. Families live in terror of parents and grandparents disappearing into the ICE system without a trace, with no way for loved ones to determine what has happened to them. What's the Reconstruction era lesson here? Our second great and great-grandparents stood at this same threshold in the late 1800s. They stared down an abyss of violent retribution that lasted 80 years only for having proven themselves capable and resilient. The oligarchs have once again seized the narrative and successfully othered African Americans and people of color. We need not walk through that threshold again if we act now. We can organize, plan, get on the same page, create and share our own narrative throughout our networks. With today's fully interconnected communication systems, we do not have to be sitting ducks this time around. However, the critical success factor is our ability to build trust within our own community. Just as participatory multiracial democracy requires a shared trust in the vision and mission of the system, creating and managing our own narrative in order to resourcefully thrive in the times ahead requires us to trust each other. Given our history, that's a tall but not insurmountable order. Engaging with the Black trust issue needs to be a collective inward journey of reckoning, of self-examination from an expanded perspective, and of willing, deliberate self-transformation in service to the whole. Let's courageously explore and engage with the phenomenon that is Black trust. That's the deep long game. In the meantime, let's use our time wisely, strategically, and swiftly. Post videos of human and civil rights violations. Communicate your own witness to unlawful injustice. Participate in peaceful upbeat, positive protests like No King's Day. Keep a record. Record and write the history that's happening around us in these extraordinary times. Build action coalitions among the circles of friends and colleagues in your various networks. Show up and support people at local meetings and town halls. Initiate and participate in card campaigns to access those hard-to-reach members of our community who are not technologically plugged in. And again, let's courageously explore and engage with the phenomenon that is Black trust.